Okay, so it's the Odyssey in Book 5, and we are on Calypso's island, which probably looks something like what's in the background if you want that kind of exotic feel. Um, what we're having a look at then is start off with the key events. And the key events obviously get the whole story underway here. Hermes is a really useful little point to bear in mind. Hermes is the god of transition and boundaries because a Herma is a boundary marker in Greece, in ancient Greece. So we know that something important happens in the text if Hermes turns up. So here we have the shift in Odysseus's fortunes, which leads us to the release of Odysseus himself. Now, Calypso's angry. She doesn't want to release Odysseus. She thinks that the other gods are jealous of her because she's found love with a mortal, and that they always do this whenever a goddess or an immortal finds love with a mortal. But she has to accept it. She does accept it as Zeus's will. So she trots off. She makes a final attempt to dissuade Odysseus from leaving and talk to him about immortality and all those sort of things. But actually, he's determined to go. So she eventually does give him help. She points him to the trees where he can chop down trees to make a raft. She gives him some tools to drill into the trees, and she gives him supplies when he is getting ready to leave. And she even casts a little helpful breeze as he leaves the island. He comes across Poseidon and a huge couple of storms, and in the end, he's saved by Ino, Athene, and the river god. So Ino of the Slim Ankles takes pity on him. She gives him a protecting veil that if he wears, or other strangely, slightly obscurely, he has to strip all his other clothes off and just wear this veil. I'll leave you to ponder on that. Which protects him. Athene calms the sea. She directs him to Physea, helps him to get up onto the rocks, and then directs him to the river mouth. And then when he gets to the river mouth, the river god checks the river's current, which allows Odysseus to swim ashore. So there's our kind of key events, which I think are easy to follow, aren't they? It's basically somebody comes to tell Calypso to let him go. She lets him go. He disappears, gets caught by a storm, and escapes to Physea. So there's our key events. Now, you may be wondering what the significance of sort of hidden and concealed might actually be. It's just a nice little thing to pick out. Calypso comes from the Greek word kalupto, meaning I cover or I conceal. And she, of course, has hidden him for 7 years. She's had him on this island, and he's been unable to get away. Nobody's found him, and he's been kind of concealed there, hasn't he? With all this time where he's been unable to get out anywhere. And in book 1, Athene says, the wise and unlucky Odysseus has been parted so long from all his friends and is pining on a lonely island so far from all his friends in the middle of the sea. Of course, when Hermes goes there, he has to go with the speed of the wind to get there. So it's obviously far away. Here's the interesting thing. Right at the end of book 5, line 485, the noble long-suffering Odysseus was delighted with his bed, which is just under a bush. He lay down in the middle of it, covering himself with a blanket of leaves. Covering himself, the Greek word kalopsato, he conceals himself. So here we have the kind of he was concealed at the start, and then at the end he conceals himself. And we're going to see that theme of disguise and concealment recurring throughout the whole of the story. It's a great little kind of nice little thing that Homer keeps bringing up. In terms of style or narrative techniques, a couple of just really easy little things. Doubles. One of the things that you can do with a double is you can expand your story. So, for example, Poseidon shipwrecks him twice, so it allows Homer to describe the storm in 2 different ways. There are 2 monologues when Odysseus talks to himself about his despairing situation, allowing more detail. There are 2 helpers, specifically Ino of the Slim Ankles and Athene, who are the most obvious helpers. And then he gets back on the boat or on the raft twice. So we get these doubles, which allow Homer to fill out the tale a little bit more. But there's another thing as well. One might also say a double. Oh, did you see what I did there? It helps the bard to remember the story or the plot, which is now disguised by the little icons. Sorry about that. If you've got to remember large amount of text, you need little techniques and skills to help you do that. So that's what's happening here. There are two of each. And so the bard can think, oh yeah, I'm going to have two shipwrecks, I'm going to have two monologues, I'm going to have two helpers, I'm going to get back on the boat twice. It helps to remember things. So it expands the tale, helps for memory. And then finally on the key characters, just to introduce ourselves here at the start of the tale. Firstly, there's Odysseus and Calypso. And we're not going to look at the whole of Odysseus' character, but there are some interesting things here. Calypso has saved Odysseus and she's offered him immortality. And you can see that in lines 128 to 134. She says, he was driven to this island by the wind and waves, and I welcomed him with open arms. I tended him. I offered to make him immortal and ageless. So clearly she's really keen to have him there. But Odysseus doesn't feel the same way. He does sleep with her, but he doesn't love her. Cold lover, ardent lady. Now, ardent means really, really enthusiastic. Cold means, oh, not very enthusiastic. So in a way, it's one of those classic relationships where one part of the couple is really into it, the other maybe not so. So Calypso's really enthusiastic. Odysseus, the whole thing leaves him a bit cold. He doesn't really trust her. So in line 161, where she says, oh, I'm ready with all my heart to help you leave the island, and he's seeing that as a lie, and he makes her swear to not trick him. But once she's done that, she helps him with good grace. So she comes out at the end quite well. She says that she's actually going to ensure that he gets back to his native land in line 142. And line 245 to 258 is when she helps him out with the tools and stuff. There's also Zeus. When Zeus makes up his mind, it's impossible for any other god to thwart him or evade his will. Zeus decides fate. Once fate is decided, that's the end of it. We've got Athene, and Athene's role is she's the one who comes up with the cunning argument in line 9 to 10, where she says that to Zeus, oh, look, if you're a great king and this is what happens to you, you might as well be an evil king, because look at poor Odysseus. He's been a great king, but he's trapped on Calypso's island, and Zeus obviously sees the injustice of that and feels compelled to act. The delayed journey also is all part of Athene's plan, line 21. Zeus says, what are you saying? Did you not plan all this yourself? Was it not your idea that Odysseus should return and take revenge on these men? So there's something interesting there about what Athene has been planning for Odysseus to learn through this whole experience. But don't forget that right at the end of book 5 as well, she saves him, as we've said. He would have died if Athene had not given him a good idea, as Homer says. So Athene's there looking after him. And then finally, Poseidon. What does the relentless malice of book 1 that Poseidon pursues Odysseus with, what does that mean? So if you have a look on lines 282 to 292, you'll see Poseidon's storm. And Poseidon says, damnation! I only had to go to Ethiopia for the gods to change their minds about Odysseus. I mean to let him have a belly full of trouble yet. All the way through the poem, we shall see Poseidon's trouble for Odysseus. So that's book 5.